Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Yes, this is Daryl from Dixon. At first, I want to say I never, ever wanted us to change our offense from Stefanski's system. I did want us to incorporate some different things to it. Yes, a little spread here and there, sprinkle some things in. But the offense was not broken. It's worked with a bunch of different people. I've heard that Jimmy Haslam wants our team to be more pass-oriented. I mean, I guess he's seen what the Chiefs did a couple years ago and thought that was the way. But, I mean, they're winning with defense and however they have to win, which is how you win football games. So we need to straighten it up, get back to what works, simplify it, and Deshaun needs to fall in line and do what the coach says and not what he thinks he's best at, because apparently he does not know what he's best at. Thank you all very much.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Let's welcome in Jake Burns from BrownsFilmBreakdown.com. Jake, I can't say I was one of the ones that didn't want him to change the offense. We need to build the offense around Deshaun Watson. In retrospect, not working. Turns out the guys that wanted to keep the offense the same and not completely overhaul it look like they had the right idea right about now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody was wrong for going about the process of thinking this offseason that they should be trying to cultivate something that Deshaun Watson is more comfortable in. I mean, I can't imagine anybody would think that's the wrong way to go about it. Now, there is a world here where that process is right, but the results are off, probably because I think we've discussed on your show now and several others I've been on that, like, Deshaun is just not the same guy. I think the shoulder thing has lingered here for him. I think there's a fear of pockets and the offensive line in front of him. Many reasons, right? So, I want to be kind of delicate because I think that is a delicate subject, that you don't necessarily need to think that they were wrong in their approach to go about cultivating something more built for him, but it's also the means of execution, which I think are severely lacking. And then you got to get to this point when they're 1-5 about how well can you adjust on the fly and become something different than what you have been if it's not working through 6 weeks, which is, in my opinion, a large enough data sample to prove where you're at is not going to be functional moving forward. So, yeah, I mean, I think the process was fine. It's the execution of that process that I think is lacking, and where you want to put the blame for the largest part of that execution, I think, is the largest discussion that we're having right now, justifiably so, right?
So when I watch the Browns offense, the line, I used to think the line was really physical. They were moving people off the ball. I don't see that. Is that because they're blocking differently? And I'm not going Bill Callahan here. Are they trying to block a little more passively because they're pass-oriented instead of being run-oriented, and you want to marry those two together, and that marriage is just not working?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I mean, they're RPO dense. They're using a lot of them right now, which means when you live in that world, your offensive lineman can only go so far downfield. So when you can only go so far downfield, you're almost playing like pivot blocking. You're almost like a shield instead of a moving force, a driving force, the way traditionally run game is blocked when it's just simply committed to running. So that does create an environment, and I don't think that they have been very good at that, right? I mean, I actually think that they have been kind of fine at running RPO runs. I don't think they're as connected collectively when they're running more simplified run game stuff where they are trying to displace people at the line of scrimmage. I think that is sort of lacking. But it's kind of a hotter take maybe, I don't know. But they ran it relatively well last week, and I think that they have been decent enough in run blocking. The problem is the volume hasn't been there because they've been trailing in so many games, and they have put themselves behind the stick significantly on too many series because they take one penalty or one negative that puts them in situations where they don't feel like they can run the ball to get the first down that they need. And when I look at the offensive line, the biggest problem to me is less run blocking displacement, although I don't think they're as good in years past. And I think you would agree with me. The injuries have ramifications on that, right? You know, you're dealing with some in and out turmoil of who's playing, but like they can't pass block well enough. That is the singular biggest issue that they're having, is that they cannot handle simplified things on offensive line stuff, which is like twist game, a defensive tackle, defensive end twist on one side. They exchange inside and out. They call that a tech stunt, tackle and twist, or the opposite of that, which is a defensive tackle goes first and is outside and the edge loops in. There's variations to that. So like they don't handle those things well. And if teams know, hey, we can only rush four, sometimes we'll bring a fifth guy, but we can rush four, do a simple stunt and confuse these guys, pick them and pin them and pull them off of the place. Like we can create pressure with four and drop seven. And I think that like that situation they put themselves in so many times and that inability to block it up. And that's running backs included who are really bad in pass protection this year. It creates a whole set of circumstances that are, I think, having pretty big ramifications on the season, including I think the quarterback doesn't trust them. And from that lack of trust, he doesn't do his job consistently enough because he's becoming pretty skittish. So, yeah, run blocking has not been good enough, even though I think it's been the lesser of the two evils here for them. But I will be curious to see and pay attention because I do think they had a relatively good run game last week where they were sort of going after a little bit more of that wide zone stuff into the weak side, and they had some success like away from the strong side, so to the two-man tackle guard side instead of tackle guard and tight end side. And I'll be interested if they keep coming back to that because I think that was a good part of their success, and they ran like 4.5 yards a carry with their running backs last week.